Did you steal a junior's patent just because you're a high school grad and you're jealous? That's disgraceful for a mentor. I incorporated technology I learned at Harvard to develop this. Why would you do something so terrible? I was summoned by manager David and James, and they accused me of something I had no recollection of. I never once stole someone's patent. On the other hand, James has been slacking off at work and hasn't developed anything worthy of a patent. If that's the case, I'll resign. Thank you for everything. They must have been thrilled, thinking they finally got their hands on the coveted patent. But this isn't going to be so easy. The next day, President Beck persistently calls me. Hello. Hey, Mike, what do you mean you're resigning? It's no wonder he's calling me in a panic. He knows what kind of impact my resignation will have. I'm Mike Williams, 42 years old. I live with my wife and our only son, who just started middle school, while working in the development department at Beck Holdings. This company sells a wide range of daily goods and furniture, and has recently been focusing on handling caregiving products. The reason is that as the company's workforce ages, the demand for caregiving products is increasing. So, the development department has been diligently working on developing these products every day. Although I didn't go to college, I've been working at this company ever since I graduated from high school. Because of this, I have a deep understanding of the company's operations, and am often appointed as a mentor for new employees. While teaching various new employees, I believe I've earned the trust of many of them. Therefore, building relationships with new employees is one of the joys of my job. However, this time, the new employee I'm in charge of is not easy to deal with. James. What is it? The person who responded in a lackluster voice was James Smith. He looks a bit older because he often slacks off, but he is a fresh graduate starting work this year. I told you to get this job done. Yeah, can't you do it, Mike? He says he's busy, but he's just finishing the bare minimum and then slacking off the rest of the time. I tell him, who is acting nonchalant. I don't want to say this, but if you keep deliberately slacking off, HR will take action against you. The company can't easily fire people, so it's fine. Maybe a high school grad like you wouldn't understand that. He's a cunning guy in situations like this. Seeing him completely unashamed, I couldn't help but sigh. The truth is, James is a Harvard grad. That might be why he has such an arrogant attitude toward me. A high school grad who joined this company. I once talked to our development department manager, David, about James's attitude. However, no matter how many times I consulted him, he wouldn't take me seriously because I'm a high school grad. He's just started. This is normal for now. Yes, he's a new hire, but even considering that, this is too much. With a high school grad as his mentor, no wonder he doesn't listen. Maybe you should ask HR to change the mentor. Beck Holdings does hire high school graduates. But some employees look down on high school grads, and manager David is one of them. So, he was no help at all, and I often had to solve problems on my own if anything troublesome came up. Well, do your best. If you want to change mentors, go ask yourself. I'll leave it to you. Understood. Even after consulting him, manager David completely ignored me and walked away. Should I ask to change mentors? While pondering this, I continued with my development work. I am in charge of developing the company's prioritized bathing aid equipment for caregiving. This equipment is based on ideas that came to me while helping care for my grandparents. It's designed to make the heavy task of bathing assistance easier, and I've already patented the mechanism. Since it significantly reduces the burden on both the elderly and caregivers. We've already secured orders for 1,000 units for care facilities across the US. Although the manufacturing for the current orders is complete, I'm working on fine-tuning the design for future improvements. Suddenly, James calls out to me. Hey, what are you working on? James, this is bathing aid equipment. For caregiving. Yeah, the demand for caregiving products is rapidly increasing, Our company is focusing on this sector too. James, for once, seemed interested in my work. For the first time, I felt like I was doing my job as his mentor. How does it work? This is how. Hoping this would be his first step towards taking work seriously, I explained how to use it. When he saw the platform move with the press of a button, James looked impressed. This makes bathing assistance easier. It's been extremely well received in the field. It's really convenient. This is going to sell well. Yeah, other companies haven't offered anything like this yet. That's why we've already secured deals with many care facilities. I see. Listening to my explanation, James gave a sly smile. He seemed impressed at first, but then his smile turned unsettling. I wondered if he was planning something, but brushed off the thought. Anyway, let's get back to work, James. Can you take care of? I'm too busy for that, seriously. After my usual interaction with James, I finished my work. A week passed without incident. Then, I was called to the meeting room by Manager David. When I arrived, not only was Manager David there, but James was also smiling smugly, giving me a bad feeling. Wondering what they were up to, I asked, "Is something wrong?" Manager David said something unbelievable. "Did you steal a junior's patent just because you're a high school grad and jealous? That's disgraceful for a mentor. I incorporated technology I learned at Harvard to develop this. Why would you do something so terrible?" What are you talking about? They summoned me just to make this baseless accusation. Beck Holdings encourages its employees to develop new ideas, allowing them to patent their innovations under their own names. I had applied for patents myself, but I have never stolen anyone's patent. On the other hand, James has been slacking off and hasn't developed anything worthy of a patent. James hasn't developed anything worthy of a patent. See, this is what he says, Manager. I finished that caregiving equipment. It's useless to feign ignorance now. There's no way you could have completed that caregiving equipment. Caregiving equipment, you say? It seems they're talking about the bathing aid equipment. Then, I understood their intent. A week ago, James saw my development. He realized that this invention was groundbreaking and would generate significant profit. If he could get the patent under his name, he could make a lot of money from the royalties. That's why the two of them are trying to take the patent from me. Manager David, you know I've been working on that equipment all along. Right. But recently, hasn't he been advancing it? That's right. My unreliable high school grad mentor was struggling with the development, so I, a Harvard grad, helped him out. James chuckled. There's no truth to this, but somehow the story is that he took over my development. Isn't that right? In that case, shouldn't the rights to the development belong to James? He handled the crucial parts of this project. It's not right for you to take credit. You say that, but James had nothing to do with this development. I led this project and managed all its progress. James didn't contribute at all. I argue desperately. Then, James speaks arrogantly. You're being pathetic, senpai. I used my Harvard education to bring this to completion, and you want to ignore that. Isn't that dishonest? This caregiving equipment will become one of our main products. This patent will be valuable for many companies' development. I understand why you want it, but taking it from me is unacceptable. The person who developed it should reap the benefits. Who's trying to steal the patent here? I spent a lot of time developing this, and you're the ones trying to take it under false pretenses. You're the ones being unreasonable. Do I have to spell it out? We're telling you to hand over your patent. It seems all this back and forth was just a prelude to taking the patent from me by force. Seeing that I wouldn't back down, they started being direct. Why should I have to do that? It's a waste to let a high school grad keep that patent. You should stick to simple tasks. Manager David sneered at me, and James added insult to injury. From now on, I'll apply for the patent on that equipment. Then, the royalties from the technology used in that equipment will be mine. I won't give you, who always criticized me, a single cent. I don't recall ever criticizing you. If you want it, here's what you need," James said, making a circle with his fingers. Seeing his vulgar gesture made me feel disgusted. It seems they're saying that if I want the patent back, I have to pay. They're trying to extort money from me in exchange for the patent. If you pay me, I'll give you back the rights to this patent. But then again, a high school grad might not even know how to file a patent application. While you figure it out, we might just go ahead and file it ourselves. Haha. I created this bathing aid equipment to make the increasingly tough caregiving environment a bit easier. That's why many care facilities have already signed contracts, and a large number of units are set for delivery. The technology I developed will be crucial in manufacturing many future products. I never thought my development would be trampled on by having the patent stolen. If they are determined to do this, I have my own plans. I've always felt dissatisfied working in this development department. James, a new hire, is trying to steal my patent, and Manager David dismisses every consultation I make. Now, they've teamed up to take the patent from me. I can't work at a company where employees dedicated to development are so mistreated just because they're high school grads. If that's the case, I'll resign. Thank you for everything. They didn't expect me to actually quit, and they were surprised. Then they started laughing. So, you're taking responsibility for stealing the patent by resigning. You finally get it. Well, thank you for everything up till now. They must be thrilled, thinking they've finally gotten their hands on the coveted patent. But it's not going to be that simple. They'll soon regret making me resign. The next day, I was relaxing at home. I knew the phone would ring about the patent. Sure enough, before noon, my phone started ringing non-stop. The caller ID showed that it was President Beck of Beck Holdings, persistently calling me. I had been ignoring the calls, but since it kept ringing, I decided to answer. Hello. Hey Mike, what do you mean you're resigning? It's no wonder he's calling me in a panic. He understands the consequences of my resignation. If you resign, what will happen to the patents used in that equipment? He then told me what had happened at the company after I resigned. Yesterday, after I left, James brought the patent application documents to President Beck. Taking the documents, President Beck was suspicious. What is this patent application? I finished that caregiving equipment, so I thought I'd apply for the patent. At Beck Holdings, employees can apply for patents through the company for inventions they develop individually. In return, the company can use the technology without paying royalties as long as the employee remains employed. That's the company policy. The mechanism of that caregiving equipment is certainly innovative. Right, there's no doubt the patent will be granted if we apply. James spoke confidently. It's fine. Since this company has been good to me, I'll set the royalty fee at 1% of sales. Don't be ridiculous. Excuse me. President Beck told James, who was speaking boastfully without understanding the company policy. Mike has already applied for and received approval for this patent. What Mike? Senpai did. He's already applied for the patent. Hearing President Beck's words, they both panicked. They underestimated me because I'm a high school grad. They never thought I had already applied for the patent. Their plan to oust me and steal the patent was now easily thwarted. It would have been better if they had backed down here. But James couldn't let it go and started to plead. No, that's not right. I finished that caregiving equipment. You finished it? I integrated technology I learned at Harvard to create this caregiving equipment. That's why it's such an innovative product. But Mike Senpai took all the credit. James spoke proudly. But the more he talked, the deeper the frown on President Beck's face grew. James. He doesn't get any recognition because he's just a high school grad. This project has been in development for 5 years. 5 years. Hearing President Beck's words, James turned pale. Wasn't this project started a few months ago? Do you really think that? You're part of the development department, yet you underestimate the development process. Glaring at James, President Beck continued. Product development is not that simple. For this caregiving equipment, I conducted numerous interviews at facilities. Based on that, I meticulously repeated prototypes and considered market trends to complete it. That's why the development took so much time. 5 years ago, you hadn't even joined our company, let alone entered college. So how could you have used the technology you learned at Harvard? Well, that is. It's clear that Mike is the leader of this development. Do you still claim you have patent rights? Under President Beck's questioning, James began to sweat profusely. His plan to steal the patent and profit from it had completely backfired. Then, as if to blame Manager David for this situation, James started complaining. Wait, Manager David, you didn't tell me about this. I didn't know either. Manager. It seems Manager David wasn't aware that I had applied for the patent. He had always dismissed me because I was a high school grad. Now, he was facing the consequences of that attitude. Sensing something was off from their conversation, President Beck asked, "Where is Mike?" Well, James and Manager David exchanged glances, and then James answered, "He resigned." What? President Beck immediately understood the gravity of the situation and was shocked. Unlike before, he now appeared very anxious. Why did that happen? Well, that is. Without him, we can't use the patent for that caregiving equipment. We won't be able to deliver the 1,000 units already ordered. 1,000 units? If I don't return, they won't be able to deliver those 1,000 units. They can't sell products using the patent without permission. The sales department worked hard to secure those contracts. And the high demand for products that ease bathing assistance led many care facilities to place orders. I didn't know either. The delivery is in just 2 weeks. Without him, we can't sell the products that use this patent. That is. Maybe we could sell them without anyone noticing. Manager David's murmured comment enraged President Beck. Absolutely not. Selling products that infringe on a patent is out of the question. We'd not only get sued for patent infringement, but we'd also lose the trust of our clients. What have you been doing in the development department all these years? Disregarding the importance of patents only made President Beck angrier. Anyone who's worked in development for decades should understand the significance of intellectual property. Enough. You two are dismissed. Yes. Understood. That's why President Beck reached out to me, desperate to secure the patent rights. If you resign, we'll be in big trouble. The technology used in the caregiving equipment will become unusable, yes. If you understand that, then why? Because they tried to steal my patent just because I'm a high school grad. I decided I can't work at a company like this anymore. I had repeatedly asked Manager David to do something about James. However, because I was just a high school grad, they never took me seriously. I can no longer stay at a company where someone like that is a manager. I'm sorry, but I have no intention of returning. My resignation has already been accepted. Right. Goodbye. Mike. I knew they'd be in trouble without me. But I was furious with those two for trying to steal the credit for my 5 years of work. I didn't care if the product couldn't be delivered. I hung up the phone. Later, Manager David called, probably after hearing from President Beck. Hey, you, why didn't you tell me you already applied for the patent? It's a bit late for that. Of course, I had reported the patent application to him as my supervisor. But he probably didn't listen because I was just a high school grad. That's why he forgot I had applied for the patent related to the caregiving equipment. Weren't you going to apply for the patent? Go ahead, do as you please. Damn it, you knew this would happen if you resigned, didn't you? Yes. It was obvious they'd be in trouble without the patent rights if I left. But this happened because manager David and the others tried to steal the credit for my development. If they had just been lazy, it would have been one thing, but trying to steal the patent was despicable. Listen seriously, if this continues, our company will be in serious trouble. We might even go bankrupt if we lose trust. So what? You. Hearing my indifferent response made manager David even angrier. But I had no intention of helping him out of his predicament. You were the ones who never listened to me. I had repeatedly consulted him about James's behavior and asserted that I developed the caregiving equipment, but they never acknowledged it. Just come back. If you don't, we won't be able to make the delivery. The delivery is in 2 weeks. It's too late to change the schedule now. Moreover, it would be difficult to remake the products without using the patent. They have no choice but to bring me back. Manager David shouted furiously. We'll proceed with the delivery. Is that fine with you? I doubt the president would force the delivery, but if you do, I'll sue for patent infringement. You're taking advantage of the situation. Goodbye. I didn't see any point in continuing the conversation, so I hung up. Later, probably pressured by manager David and President Beck, James called me too. Don't mess with me. If you'd already applied for the patent, why didn't you say so? Why should I have to tell you? It was exasperating to hear the same thing from him. They underestimated me because I'm a high school grad, assuming I wouldn't have the knowledge to apply for a patent. That's why they thought they could easily claim the patent under their names. However, I've been working in the development department of this company for a long time. Of course, I understood the employment regulations regarding patent applications. You tried to steal the work I've been developing all along, even though you haven't done any work at all. I'm a Harvard grad, of course. I'm superior to you. A high school grad, you should just hand over the credit. Sure, education is important, but it's not everything in the real world. His irrational thinking explained why he kept slacking off, and I sighed in exasperation. In any case, it didn't matter to me anymore since I had already quit. If you say the development is yours, go ahead and apply for the patent again. So, there's no problem without me, right? Well, that's... With a talented Harvard grad like you, the work should be fine. Good luck. Hey. With that, I hung up the phone. I hoped that would be the end of it, but of course it wasn't. When the delivery date was just a week away, the products were already manufactured. If they need to apologize to the clients, they need to act now, but cancelling the delivery at this point is not realistic. It should be considered a last resort if all else fails. So, I was called back to Beck Holdings once again. Initially, I had no intention of coming. However, President Beck had given me a chance by hiring me, a high school grad, and I felt indebted to him. So, after cooling off, I didn't want to cause him any more trouble. I'm truly sorry, Mike. We're sorry. We deeply apologize. I was surprised that they genuinely apologized. It seems they finally understood the gravity of the situation. President Beck must have given them a stern talking to. No problem, so what happened after that? Nothing has changed since then. It's impossible to remake the products now, and going around apologizing to the clients for the non-delivery is. In any case, Beck Holdings' reputation would inevitably plummet if this continues. It could even lead to bankruptcy. The three of them were anxious about how to get permission to use the patent. President Beck sighed deeply. I understand why you're angry. James and manager David will be fired, so could you please come back? What? What do you mean, President? The two of them burst into anger. It seems they hadn't been informed about their termination. Given their mistakes, being fired is justified, but they were still shouting in protest. We weren't told about this. We've contributed so much. How can you say that? This decision is final. President Beck began speaking, visibly frustrated. James, I've heard about your usual behavior. Usual? behavior. James's voice trembled as he repeated the words, seemingly aware of his actions. Yes, I wanted to give you some time since you're a new hire. But you've been flaunting your Harvard degree and slacking off at work. James barely completed the minimum tasks and then shirked his responsibilities. Being a new hire and a Harvard grad, he was initially overlooked, but his behavior was almost tantamount to theft. Many employees reported their dissatisfaction with him. And now, trying to steal a patent. Slacking off could have been addressed with guidance. However, plotting to steal a patent and forcing me to resign, resulting in the inability to deliver 1,000 units, was a serious issue. James's actions caused significant damage to the company's operations, and President Beck could no longer ignore his behavior. He then turned to Manager David. Manager David, you're also at fault. I've heard there have been significant issues with your work attitude as well. That's not true. You've also been stealing credit from your subordinates and irresponsibly neglecting them. It seems the other employees in the development department felt the same way I did. Even when reports were made about James, Manager David did nothing. On the contrary, he colluded with James to steal the patent. Such a manager deserves to be punished. We cannot keep such individuals in our company. Suddenly, Manager David pointed at James and began to accuse him. It's all his fault. What? If he hadn't lured me into this, I wouldn't have. James was shocked, clearly not expecting Manager David to shift the blame onto him. It seems Manager David chose to betray James to save himself. He took 4 years off to get into Harvard and wanted to make money to prove himself to his family. Don't say that. While James did graduate from Harvard, it turns out he had a rather complicated background. Spending 4 years trying to get into Harvard must have caused his family a lot of trouble. That's probably why he plotted this scheme to prove himself to them. Still, being 26 as a new graduate explains why he looks older. James, not backing down, counterattacked. Well, Manager David, you spent too much money on women, and now you're about to be kicked out of your house. Hey, apparently, Manager David had been indulging in affairs, depleting his family's savings. To make up for it, he needed money, which led him to gamble on stealing the patent for a quick fortune. Watching them argue so disgracefully over such selfish motives, I couldn't help but feel disgusted. They kept blaming each other so much that I finally spoke up. In any case, do you two realize what you've done? Well, Seeing how furious I was, they trembled in fear. Then, I told them what I had wanted to say all along. Do you understand how it feels to have something you've spent 5 years developing, through countless hardships, stolen from you? I spent years turning my ideas into reality. Of course, it wasn't always smooth, which is why it took years. Frankly, this development was extremely challenging. When James joined the company, most of the work was already done, so neither of you can truly understand my struggles. To bring this product to life, I used all the technical skills of the development department. This patent is the culmination of all that hard work. They don't understand that stealing it is an insult to every developer. Get out. Please wait, Mike Senpai. I'll work hard from now on. I'll listen to you from now on. Just don't fire me. I won't grant permission to use the patent unless you both are fired. Accepted. My resolve was firm, and nothing they said could change my mind. They had treated me so poorly that their dismissal was inevitable. Though they cried and pleaded, President Beck ultimately fired them. James and Manager David continued to argue bitterly until the end. However, no amount of arguing could reverse their dismissal. From that day forward, they were fired and never returned to work. James had taken 4 years to get into Harvard, causing significant trouble for his family. While it would have been fine if he had worked properly, he was swiftly fired from Beck Holdings, the company he joined after graduating from Harvard. His family, fed up with his failures, disowned him. He then tried to find another job. But no decent company would hire a 26-year-old with a history of dismissal, despite his Harvard degree. Unable to find another job, he struggled with living expenses and ended up working part-time at a corner shop. As for manager David, or rather just David now, his wife discovered that he had been squandering their savings on affairs. That money had been saved for their retirement, and his wife was furious. She divorced him and demanded repayment of the money he had used. David had very little savings of his own, making it difficult to repay the amount in one lump sum. As a result, David had to pay his wife a fixed amount each month. He tried to find a new job to support himself and make the payments, but he was no longer at an age where re-employment was easy. He started working part-time at night construction, struggling to make ends meet. After that, my resignation was revoked, and I returned to work at Beck Holdings. The patent rights were restored, and the bathing aid equipment I developed was successfully delivered. It is already being used in care facilities, where its convenience is appreciated by many caregivers and residents. "I'm really glad you stayed with us," President Beck said. "I owe a lot to you, President Beck." I had resigned in a fit of anger over what those two did. However, I am grateful to this company for hiring me, a high school graduate. So, I decided to let bygones be bygones and hope to work here until retirement. I also wanted to continue developing products that would delight our clients.